Alba, what I'd like to start with is just a little bit of your background. I'd love to understand kind of how you got into this industry and into the role that you're currently in. So if you don't mind starting with, those early influences, what kind of got you into motorsports and into the racing industry, and we'll go from there.
No, absolutely, absolutely, and feel free to stop me whenever you want. So I grew up in Puerto Rico, in the west coast of Puerto Rico, and mom and dad always said, "You have to go to college." Yeah, I am the oldest of three siblings. So for them, especially with my dad, very related to STEM careers, and my mom as a teacher. So education and the school and science was always a big deal. But I got a love for science because I wanted to be an astronaut, and I wanted to be the first Puerto Rican female to go to space.
Yeah.
So it's interesting with everything going on with the tourism, space tourism. The last 9 days, it has been so cool.
Yeah.
I have been watching. No, but I decided that I wanted to be a mechanical engineer. And one of my idols growing up was Sally Wright, the first female astronaut, US astronaut. So I decided to go to the University of Puerto Rico, just next to where I grew up, and a very good engineering school, to become a mechanical engineer. Through my years in school, I was given an opportunity to work on a racing project, on a car project, and that's where I discovered my love for racing and for motorsports that I didn't know I had. I work at the Formula SAE project. I don't know if you know about SAE International. SAE.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I don't know a ton about it.
Yeah, so they have a competition. It's called CDS competitions, and one of the competitions is called Formula SAE, and it gives an opportunity to college students to design, develop, and build a race car, and to bring that car to annual student competitions. We just came from one of those student competitions the last week. So I got the opportunity to be one of the founding members and the first team captain for my team from the University of Puerto Rico. And that's when I discovered the love for automotive and so on. First competition was at General Motors at the Proving Grounds. So it was my first time pretty much going to Michigan, and I didn't realize how big GM was and all of that. And from there, I continued as a student. And in my last competition as a student, I was provided the opportunity to have an interview with two engineers from GM Racing. They hired me. They were looking for several engineers. They hired two engineers at that competition. And the rest is history. I started at GM Racing under Herb Fischel. I don't know if you know Herb Fischel in your past with Motorsports or so on. But I started as a data acquisition engineer, developed from there not only data acquisition with NASCAR, but the NASCAR trucks. NASCAR trucks were starting at that time. Drag racing, what we call today IMSA, Trans-Ams at that time. So that's how everything started. I became a one moment program manager for the NHRA race program for GM. And from there, I became NASCAR Cup program manager. In 2001, I was there for the first win of Jimmy Johnson until his last win in the Cup Series. So it has been, I would say that's one of my proudest moments, to have been to see all his career.
Yeah.
And now I am at Hendrick Motorsports. So bottom line, never thought that I would be in racing, but 20-something years later, this is where I am, and I cannot imagine something better.
Very good. Yeah, so you spent a lot of time at GM Racing then before you came to Hendrick.
Absolutely, absolutely. I spent 23 years. That sounds like a lot right now.
And Alba, at GM Racing, you had a number of different roles, like you mentioned. Was there one that you would call your favorite, or one that you liked the most?
No, I would say every role was fantastic, but I really, for some reason, I enjoyed a lot when I was working in drag racing. Mm-hmm. And the particular reasons is like an example, I remember when we brought a different data acquisition system, when we were trying different things on the engine side, we were with the engine experts. A lot of safety work that we did. I remember that was my first time that I met the Joe Gibbs racing team when they have what was Corey McLennan, I think that was, as the driver, and we did a lot of experiments with data acquisition on their vehicles and so on. So it just was different. It was different. Not too many rules at that time, so you could try many things. So I really enjoyed that. But every role that I have participated, every series, it has been fantastic. Of course, you will always remember some key moments, races like my first Daytona 24 hours that I discovered is not really a 24-hour race, it's a 48-hour race between everything. I did Sebring. I remember when Dale Earnhardt, I was there when Dale Earnhardt won in 1995, the Breaker 400, how amazing that was, and events like that. So, but each one of those jobs have been amazing. So.
Yeah. So what ultimately brought you to Hendrick Motorsports? Was it something that did they kind of reach out to you, or were you looking for a move within NASCAR? Or?
No, and I love what I was doing at GM, but Mr. Hendrick and specifically Jeff Andrews, who is the general manager of our company, they were reorganizing the company, and they were putting together a department called Competition Systems, and they thought that I was the right person for that job. So they contacted me. Of course, I would be honest, I have received different offers during my career. But that one, there was something that attracted me a lot to that one, and to, of course, working for this company. So several months later, I got the opportunity. My time at GM, fantastic. Never had anything bad to say about that company, and I never thought I was going to leave GM. But this was a golden opportunity, and only you get few golden opportunities in your life. So I took it, ran with it, and this is awesome.
Yeah, certainly. So you've been there since about the end of like 2019, it sounds like, or?
No, I started at the end of January of 2018. So I have been here 3.5 years. So I have seen, that first year, that was our win 250 with Chase Elliott. Was the first win for Chase Elliott here as a cup driver, and we have seen what I call the bad and the good. So, years that have been very difficult to win, and years like this year that has been a dream come true. But every team dreams about.
Right. So can you mentioned that the department was kind of started based around hiring you. So can you talk a little bit about your role and what it is that you're kind of responsible for?
Absolutely. So it's called Competition Systems. So it has to do with the tools that we provide to the race team. And of course, there are many tools. But like an example, we develop the simulations that the teams use. We work on the simulators with other partners like GM. The complete force, the complete move DRL plus the static simulator. We work with tires also with GM and Pratt & Miller, development of tires, will force transducer. We also data acquisition, everything that has to do with that. Testing can be lab testing, like it can be track testing. And one of my favorite parts is about the strategy tools, developing strategy tools to support our teams, not only during the week, but also during the race weekend at the racetrack and so on. Plus, I also am in charge of what we call our command center, where we support our teams remotely and support them while they are at the track during the weekend.
Okay, so yeah, so are you not at the track during races? Are you still back at headquarters, or do you get to travel?
No, so we are at headquarters. With the COVID. NASCAR, of course, like many sports, needed to figure out a different way of how to reduce the number of teams and to continue putting a great show. And it was interesting. I think that we all learned a lot, that you can still put a race together with, you know, you needed to be a little bit inventive. So with the reduced number of people, a lot of the race engineers have needed to stay behind, because think about it, you need a mechanic, maybe, you know, more important if you have an issue at the track.
Sure.
And also with the new schedule of NASCAR this year, and of course the last year, many of the races are only a one-day race. So pretty much you unload the vehicle, go to inspection and race. So a lot of the support has stayed behind, and we support remotely them.
Yeah, no, very good. Alba, would you say that there's any one particular aspect of what you do that's most important above, you know, all the other things that you're responsible for? Or does it all kind of go hand in hand?
No, everything goes hand in hand. Everything is needed. Everything is completely needed. You know, it's interesting, and like I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, I think everybody, and I imagine in your job and in many jobs, everybody learned to work differently when the COVID happened, and how things, you know, changed in the world. And we learned a lot. That, like an example, I remember that in the past, to race on a Sunday without going to practice and qualifying and all of that was unheard. I remember that because I cannot remember the track, but one time that it was raining and we were like, oh my goodness, how are we going to race on Sunday? We haven't practiced yet. But look where we are the last year and this year. There's barely has been a practice, and the show is still amazing. The competition is still great. So we all learned, you know, and I think that has been the fun part, the challenge more than anything. The challenge of, you know, these are the set of rules, and you adapt and you learn, you know, how to use them better to your advantage and how make things happen. So it's not one particular thing that I like the simulation more, or the testing and so on. Of course, you know, we all have our favorite, but it's more about, this is the challenge. How do you work with the challenge? So
yeah, absolutely. Being an engineer, I wouldn't expect anything less. That you like challenges, so that makes sense.
I love going to the track. Unfortunately, like I said, with the rules, it has been a little bit different. So I have been getting my I call it my fix when we go to test. Test with the new vehicle and try different things. But again, at the end of the day, I really, you know, I was reading the other day, and of course, you hear after a team wins, hey, thank you everybody at the shop, right? But I just read a quote from the crew chief a couple of days ago at another team that won, and he said, it really takes every employee in the company to get a win. And I really believe that now that I live that every day, it really takes each person. So not only the people that go to the track, but the ones that are working on those vehicles during the week, and the ones that support during the weekend, every person contributes to that win.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly takes a number of people to run a NASCAR team, and certainly one as big as Hendrick. So that's awesome. Alba, I'm curious. You know, you mentioned that you've been at Hendrick for about 3 years, but is there another role within the company that you might have your eye on, or something that you want to try your hand at outside of what you're currently?
Yes, yes, but I will remain nameless for now. I need to talk to my bosses first. yes, but at the end, yes, I like to grow. I like to grow. That's, and I think that all my management, all my leadership knows that very clear. I want to grow in the company, but at the end of the day, I want to contribute in the right role. Yes, many ideas, but you know, they will come with time. We will let you know.
Yeah, fair enough. Now you mentioned that when you were at GM Racing, you really liked the drag racing aspect that you got to deal with, and now obviously you're with NASCAR. Is there one particular thing that you like most about racing or motorsports? You know, is there one thing above all else that really draws you to this industry?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I want to make very clear, the reason that I liked the drag racing was because we tried many new things. that were not out there. But yes, drag racing, IMSA, NASCAR, IndyCar, anything. Once again, as you said earlier, is the challenge. It's knowing that the green flag drops every Sunday or every Saturday, right? And if you have an issue, let's say that we just came back from Loud, let's say that a regular weekend, we just came back from Loudon and we have a race this coming weekend, right? And you had an issue that you have to fix. You have to put all the best minds in place to fix the problem, because you know that your product is going to get tested and evaluated again a week later. And in what industry do you get to do that?
Mm.
So that again, it's that challenge. Is that you need to think really quick in your feet, that you need to do whatever the testing it takes, be very inventive and work in it in a team, because you cannot do this job by yourself. You need a whole team to put their head together, and you get evaluated. You get evaluated every Sunday here. Bottom line, you are as good as at the scorecard. We win races, that's fantastic, but the next weekend you don't win a race, it's bad. So you don't get that in many other industries. So.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, you got to be winning to stay on top. No doubt about it.
Absolutely.
Alba, speaking of challenges, I wanted to ask you about a kind of a different type of challenge. Obviously, motorsports has been more of a male-dominated industry, and certainly women are becoming a growing part of the industry. But I wanted to ask you if in your time in the industry, if you face challenges because you've been a woman, and maybe even because you're from Puerto Rico and not American. I don't know if that plays into it a little bit for you as well. But can you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. And yes, there have been challenges in the past. And I will give you one more challenge that I had when I started that many people cannot think about it. I was an engineer. There were not too many engineers in the sport. Mm-hmm. So there were several challenges, and but again, for me was not that different, because an example, when I was studying mechanical engineering, there were very few females also. So I chose a career where I started to get used that fortunately or unfortunately, I was different. I was being seen as different. Of course, I chose a career where the same was happening, but of course there were more challenges. Getting used, when I came to this country, was getting used to a different culture, of course, getting used to a different language, customs, the racetrack, and a lot of things. So it took some challenges at first. It took some challenges, but at the end of the day, hard work, and to do the job right, and patience is what helped me. And I continue working very hard just because I want to see more females in the sport. I want to see more people like me, race, gender, and I want to see more diversity of thought in the sport. Doesn't matter in what package you come. And at the end of the day, I think that the teams that succeed, not only talking in motorsports, but I am talking in any industry, are the teams that are completely diverse and that different ideas come at front. If you had the same people, you're not going to progress. So.
Yeah, no, that's well said. And it certainly seems like that hasn't slowed you down at all. It seems like, you've managed to progress in your career quite well. And that's awesome to see.
Thank you. Thank you. There's still work to do, but it takes all of us to make it happen.
Absolutely. Alba, I'll leave you with one other question here, just kind of a forward-thinking, future outlook. What's something that has you excited about maybe motorsports in general, or the automotive industry in general, or NASCAR? What's one or two things that have you excited?
No, it's a little bit of everything. And I will tell you, first of all, in NASCAR, we have a brand new, I call vehicle architecture. That's a term more from the GM side, right? From the automotive industry side. We are going to a new generation, what we call the next gen, or Gen 7 vehicle, a complete radical vehicle from what we have been used to work. So we are all going to learn how to work with that vehicle, and we have to change our mindset. So that's very critical. Also, how society is changing. The changes the last year with NASCAR, how some things happen, and that's very exciting. And in the automotive industry, I will always be a car person, because that's in my blood. I was reading this week and how is in the European Union, how they expect to only sell EV vehicles by 2035. And of course, I follow the news with GM and everything that other companies are doing, and how everything is changing so radical. And somebody reminded me something. I think that when who was Henry Ford decided to build vehicles, right, early in the past century. Perhaps not all the structure for roads was built yet in America, right? It took a lot of time.
Right.
Were in existence. So I think that we are lucky enough and blessed enough to see the next revolution out there with autonomous and electric vehicles, and it will take a huge infrastructure and many companies. I'm talking with an engine builder company, right? We all love our V8s and V6. Trust me, I love all of them. Okay.
Right.
I'm a car person at heart, but it's going to be the propulsion systems that we're going to be all working in all our industries are going to change. So it is how we adapt to that change and how we make it better. So it's exciting moments, and I'm excited about everything going on around.
Yeah, no, again, that's well said. And it's certainly some very big changes on the horizon.
Mhm.
I know for many of us engine guys, it's tough to think about something that doesn't have the sound of a V6 or V8, like you said. It's dealing with the silence is a little bit different.
Well, it's going to be a little bit different, and I remember my first Formula One race, and when I heard that, I was a V12. When I heard that, I was like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
So that is when you realize that you are in the right, in the right industry, when you get excited about engines and when you go to show places or all of that. But the reality is the world is changing. The world is changing, and we need to change, and you never know, so we just need to be part of that change and continue that. So.
Yeah. Alba, you mentioned the next gen car that NASCAR is going to be using. I don't know how much you can talk about it, but are there a few key aspects of the new car that, in your role, you're going to have to be changing versus what they're using right now?
No, and again, it's in general. Everybody's going to get used to, like an example, how we test, how can I say, the other aerodynamics of the vehicle are going to be very different, and even the driver inside the cockpit, how it feels, how all of that is working. The engine, perhaps the engines are not changing right now, but everything around the engine package is going to change. Wheels, we go from 5 lug nuts to 1 lug nut. The simulation is going to change, the testing. What do we do in the wind tunnel? Everything, the kind of parts, how do we build the car? That's a big one too. Perhaps how many races, how many practices, qualifying. So I think that the sport is going to go through a very radical change. And the excitement is, while we're still running and going for a championship, of course, is what you learn and how much testing and virtual and physical testing you can do, to be the best team when we go to the Daytona 500 the next year. So it's going to be very different, and you should be watching because we're all going to be learning at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like you said, it sounds like it's exciting, and you certainly have your hands full, doing a lot of new things for next year. So, Alba, again, I really appreciate your time. I don't have too many more questions for you, but I will open it up to you if there's just anything else that we didn't quite cover, just anything else you want to mention. But
no, I like I told you, I love what I do. I think that is very obvious. We are in a very exciting moment in the sport, and I just want to bring more people, younger people, to continue making the sport better, and the next generation to learn more about what we are doing. NASCAR is very exciting. This company is very exciting. We're all excited about how this year has been going on and what we can do the next year. So thank you for everything that you do, and please, continue with those V6, V8s, all these engines that we love. So
Yeah,
thank you for the opportunity today. Okay.
absolutely. Again, thank you for your time.